store and ignore? I say no. I say it is store and watch for spots to market. We're definitely going to go over beans. A lot of phone calls on beans. What should I do? What should I store? What shouldn't I store? Corn we'll touch on. Corn versus wheat we're definitely going to talk about. Gold, silver will be a part of the plan. Crude oil, which we don't normally talk about. Hedging opportunity or a sign of things that come. But mainly, we want to try to help you fix your marketing. We're going to be talking a lot about that in this episode.
Brought to you by American Federal Bank.
Yes.
Welcome to Hedge Heads, where hosts John Prishman and Ryan Tungseth discuss commodity markets, hedging, and anything related to trading futures. Remember, the risk of loss in trading commodity interests can be substantial. These are opinions only and not trading advice. While no one knows where the market's going, they're not afraid to share some ideas.
Well, John, we're back for another episode of the Hedge Heads, and we have a special episode today as it's your birthday.
Yeah, you saved that. You snuck that by me. I didn't think you knew.
I had a little birdie who told me, so I thought we'd record a birthday episode. And speaking of birthdays, so we're thinking about the year. It is that time of year to talk about what's your plan.
Yes. And so most of the phone calls, or a lot of the phone calls I field now this time of year is kind of the same thing. You hear this time and time again. What I got to sell this off the combine, soybeans mainly. Should I re-own it, or should I put it in this storage program, or should I put it on the farm, or a lot of variations of that. And what you want to get to, and it's not going to happen this year, is you want to get to be the guy that's not asking this anymore. Very rarely is the highs that fall, although you go back a number of years ago, highs that fall on beans were very common. But what you want to get to a point where you recognize whether that you should be holding it in the fall or you should be getting rid of it in the summer, and you need to break this cycle. But nonetheless, you do have to still deal with what you're given. I will say this year was difficult. You had a perfect growing season in South America, followed by a complete collapse in our commodities out of the blue, corn and beans. And then we had a perfect weather pattern here in the U.S. from day one of plantings. Not every single state was perfect, but you know what I'm saying. And then it never had a weather scare. So it wasn't the easiest of years. And I'll be the first to say that it was a very difficult year for marketing in general, and some bad luck with no weather windows. But that's you can fix this. What you don't want to do is get online and start getting angry with the rest of the angry mobs. Actually, X and Facebook, and it's kind of unreadable, the amount of, I don't even know what to call it, really. Honestly, I don't like to read that stuff. I'd rather have informational stuff than the constant whining that you see. Now, the financial pressure probably is leading to this, but if that's the case, what you're going to want to do is look for ways out of it, if there is any, and that's what I would concentrate. If you're very unhappy, call your representatives, make your voice heard, or try to change things that you want changed. Whether you don't believe that we should import beef, get on the phone and then talk to people that can make that change. Getting online does really nothing but waste energy. I can't even tell if these are real people. I think a lot of them are.
I think half of them are bots and the other half are real people that get triggered by bots.
Yeah, by other people complaining about it. And it really, what you want to do is work out of these cycles and not surf so much for the information for your marketing online. You're going to have a hard time being successful doing that. You want to get better information, and you want to start breaking these cycles, meaning hopefully next year you're not asking about your November 26 beans. Should I store it? What should I do? You're either you used a program at the elevator that helped you, or you made sales and forward contracting, and all you have to do is worry about delivering it at higher price. That you made sales at higher prices. You want to start trying to break these cycles where you're not always out of storage. And should I own it? Should I not re-own it? But back to what the questions are. It's a lot about soybeans. And I've said it a number of times. We have 81 million acres of soybeans. If it cannot rally this year, It's going to have a very hard time rallying. It's world demand. China matters a lot, but still, we're going to get that extra demand because China is raising the Brazil price. Then it makes our bean levels more attractive to buy. So we have a very good shot at rallying this year. And yes, it does seem like you'd want something to re-own it. I mean, what ideas do you have to re-own soybeans?
I have zero ideas on that, but I do have a comment on what you said previously.
Yes.
World demand's world demand, but if South America keeps producing more beans, that doesn't drive their price up. It levels the price up, and if the world's producing more beans, eventually you meet the point. Even if we in the U.S. only did 81 million acres.
Well, aren't you a dark rainy cloud?
It is a dark rainy day outside.
It is the truth.
I'm saying being realistic. So there is the argument, how are we going to use our grains here? Yep. How do we use more in our economy? So what can we do that way? I mean, on the side where I think we need to go. Now, eventually, the weather's not going to be perfect across the world forever. This was 1 year where it happened to be perfect in South America. It happened to be nearly perfect in the U.S. That we end up with these numbers, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to be every year. So there's your bright spot, but it is this year.
Yes.
And so, I don't have any ideas. I don't because of that. We had a perfect year for growing grains across the world by all appearances.
Yeah, and so the answer is like what people want is somehow the politicians to solve this for us. Who knows what's going to happen? The constant expansion is really what got us here. We would have 83 to 88 million acres of beans, and we had enough demand to pretty much take care of them. With China stepping in and then just the rest of the world demand, the expansion is going to be a problem, and it's going to have to be tackled every year. But that leads us right back to what I was saying. Your marketing is going to have to be a lot better than it's been in the past. You're going to get your windows, and you will have to know what you want to do. Meaning, like I'm working on a corn deal right now to where we can pull the trigger when it gets to that price, and then we'll have our upside wide open. You have to do it when the stuff's down, nobody likes it, it's never going to go higher again. And that's what's going to start separating you from other people is having better ideas. Of course, they won't be perfect, and that's the way I make my ideas, that I don't know what it's going to do. Let's keep this upside open instead of the only way I can sell my thing is I sell it, and it's final, and it's black and white. You guys like that are going to struggle a lot more than having flexible ideas out there.
I think the hardest part about marketing and trading is that you have to be both a contrarian, looking at the opposite side of whatever issue, but you also need to be ready to jump on the trend and join everyone else. Yeah. And knowing when to do which is definitely the hardest part.
And switching gears very quickly, especially with you have fleeting rallies. And that's really what you want to get. You want to start working towards not being with the group, thinking outside the box, getting better information to you. Is there anything I can do to help my situation? It doesn't all happen here. It's not like we're the magic men that make everything magically happen in better marketing.
No, but we're pretty good.
Yeah, well, we'll give you at least a number of ideas that you might not have thought about. So you tell us your situation, and we'll come up with an idea. Like I have a guy that's going to buy a long bean futures, and we're going to buy a put. And that works with what he wants to do. And the idea is if beans come up, it might not be very fast. It might be a slow, steady deal. So let's say you buy a put at the money for 35 cents, covers your downside. Then you have a long futures to cover your sold beans. So what this is it's a cautious long. It's a new name I gave it. You're protected, and the most you can lose is 35 cents. You could have margin money because you can't use any of the put money for margin money. But the put protects the long, and if it goes straight down from here, you're going to lose 35 cents on that long. Why would you do that instead of just a 35-cent long call? Well, there's a chance that things change enough to where you don't think beans are going to go down, meaning we have a little China deal, and it's going to be enough for the numbers to work. It really doesn't look like it's going down. And I don't need that put on. That put still, it might have creeped up 16, 20 cents, and the put might still be worth 20 cents. So you're going to get more money than if you were just long. You only got 20 cents if you were just long. You got 20 cents back. You lost 15 cents in that put, and then you got 20 cents on the futures. So you would make more money on obviously just the regular long, but you get some of your premium back and you're protected, is what I was trying to say. So you're trading cautiously, or you could just buy it. That's the cheapest. But then it could go down 50 cents on you, and then you would lose more because the China deal fell through. So it's where you don't know if something's going to happen, like the China deal or the politicians fixing it for at least a year. You just have a protected position. But it works for him, but the next guy just is going to buy call. I just got the call bought for the guy. He needs 4 contracts. We're going to do try to average in, or just at least see what the news does overnight. Got one bought today and looking to buy the other 3 over the next number of days, and that's what works for him. So everyone's going to be different, but the point is we're trying to get ideas to you that are going to help you. But my biggest thing is by next year you want to be the guy that has everything sold. It might not be perfectly, and that you're not dealing with these low prices and storage issues, because the guys that do that every year are going to struggle with the expanding acres in South America and in these markets in general when they're more bearish.
I would say the ideal is that you're looking at 27 and 28 at this time next year.
November.
Right now you're looking at 26 and 27 options.
You need to be very wary of November 26th. If 81 million acres is too much for beans, well, 85 or 86, whatever it's going to be next year for beans at more normal acreage, is certainly going to be too much if nothing changes. So that's a contract I really have my eye on. Whether I'm going to buy courage calls for that, I don't know. But courage calls allows you, let's say you have a China deal and November beans run right up to $12, $26. This is what I'm talking about, breaking the cycle. Then you're able to market your beans, have your upside wide open, and your beans are gone at a higher price. Worst case scenario, they're $12 minus what you paid premium. You don't have to understand all this, what we're talking about, but that's the process. You want to get to a spot where you do understand what we're talking about. And some years it's going to work better than other years. And recognizing what kind of markets we have. We have bearish markets right now. You get online and everyone's going to have to convince the yield isn't out there. Just wait. This is going to be the biggest monster bull market into spring that you've ever seen. That'll pop up once in not very often that it changes that abruptly or the numbers are that wrong. So hanging your hat on that is just isn't going to work. You want to start working on learning about the markets and making calls and being in contact with guys that are going to help you out with that. And that's really how you get out of it, learning along the way. And then in 3 years from now, which I won't lie to you, it's a process, you'll be running a lot leaner and a lot meaner. And you might not even need to talk to guys anymore. You might just be like, hey, I'm not going to read anything online that it wasn't helping me for years. I know what I know now, and I learned it, and now I can apply it to that. That's where you want to get to.
Well, I'm going to say you don't have to get there, though, because the reality is that's what we're here for versus like,
oh, yeah.
I don't want to know how to fix a combine.
Yeah.
I don't want to learn how to fix a sprayer or whatever. And so if that's your skill set, understand that that's where you want to be, and what we're here to help with the other side.
Yep. And I personally don't if I was a producer, I would not like to hand 100% off of my marketings. And there's a lot of them that do that. I wouldn't gel well with that. You're going to have guys that have no interest in marketing, but want an advisor like that maybe would be a better fit. But I want to be the in-between guy, checking in once a week.
Yep.
And seeing if there's anything that I'm missing. And then that would take a total of 10 minutes a week, and it's going to vastly improve your marketing. I think everybody can do that, and not enough people do. Sometimes there's not a lot to talk about. Like right now, we're at harvest. It's moving around 10, 15 cents, one direction to the other. But the planning for next year's crop is really important. I'm going to be working on December 26th and November 26th beans because it comes at you fast. Then there's that opportunity. Then it's gone. You know what I mean? And then if you aren't ready for it, you go right back into that cycle of calling in the fall and saying, what do? I have too much and I don't have anything marketed. You just need to break that cycle. You need to really start working on that. Stop reading all the stuff online. It's not going to help you. You might have found some diamond in the rough that is good. I doubt it. I mean, if you do, refer it to me because I'd like to hear about it. But most likely it won't. And I've noticed this over 3 years as more information's gone online for free. That guy's marketing's gotten worse and worse and worse. And I think more than anything, it's just confusing people. They're not understanding where the fundamentals are, where everything is. They're reading that and they just get plain confused and don't do anything. That's kind of what I've seen is guys do less marketing with more information and general confusion. So what has upside? Why doesn't? And we should go over that, because this is where you plan. We went over the 81 million acres of beans. If they can't go up this year, we're in deep trouble in soybeans. Corn is the one everybody wants to go up. We have 99 million acres. We don't know what the yield is. But one thing that's bothered me, and we've talked about it a lot, is that corn is very expensive relative to wheat. Very expensive. As a matter of fact, among the most expensive in the last 20 years. The drought of 2012, definitely corn was even more expensive versus wheat. Why does that matter? It matters a great deal for domestic feed use. That is a feed relationship, and wheat is going down, and it's like an anchor on corn. Corn has been fighting it and going higher, but it's not going to do it any favors. Exports will remain good for corn and wheat. They're separate, but the domestic feed consumption, without a doubt, it's already making it in the feed channels down south. Kansas wheat's cheaper, 10, 11 cents cheaper than Chicago wheat. And that's another spread I really like that I'm keeping my eye on. A higher protein wheat under the other wheat. Call us for details on that one. I'll tell you exactly how we're looking at entering it and when we're going to possibly get in that one.
Just a word of warning on that, John.
Yes.
Because, in my time here,
yes,
Kansas has been 90 cents under Chicago.
It's already happened by this time of year. That was a very different set of circumstances.
No, but within the last 6 years, I remember that one. It wasn't
but
long.
you had exceedingly high ending stocks for Kansas wheat.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it isn't.
Just want to point out.
Fundamentally, they're not comparable here. So
it can go there though.
Yeah, but any market can do anything against any market.
Okay.
But if it had been 90 cents, like you'd pointed out, and that is true. And in a quick side story, and the way that got cured is that they hauled trucks that had Kansas wheat to the Chicago Board of Trade for delivery. Cost them 65 cents to do it. They netted out the other 25 cents free money by doing it because you can deliver a higher quality wheat against a lower quality wheat contract. So that's actually how that got cured. It was an extreme thing that happened that year with lower Chicago ending stocks, and they used the Kansas as the hedge on the short leg when Kansas ending stocks were very high and exports were exceedingly low. So it's not a very comparable year. It's funny that you mentioned that. I just looked that up. Exports were the worst ever, and that's really where that happened. Kansas is very sensitive to exports more than Chicago is, but Chicago can be sensitive to that. We have excellent exports, I'll have you know, this year. Best in 12 years, as a matter of fact.
I was going to say, it's been a long time since we've had good wheat.
Yeah, 12 years. Best in 12 years. So we are selling wheat that doesn't appear to be the danger. And then Kansas generally outpaces Chicago because there's more weather problems in the winter wheat belt on the Kansas side than there is in the Chicago. Not always, but that Ohio Valley is a little more protected. Where you go out west, it's bone dry. And usually, you have multiple problems. I think where Kansas maybe is a little more bullish than Chicago this year is looking into next year. Who's going to plant 475 Kansas wheat? I mean, Chicago's not a good price either, but at least it's still $5. I mean, Kansas wheat is it's in the gutter. And this is planting time right now. So you're going to see fewer Kansas acres as you've seen when this has happened in the past. So that should be supportive over the longer term of the Kansas. And then, of course, you have the weather. But back to corn versus wheat. Wheat's very cheap relative to corn. Either wheat's way too cheap or corn's way too expensive. And guys don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. And then you have 99 million acres of corn. they're finding more ending stocks from last year, which I believe is 100% true. And it's just it's going to be a defensive year for corn. So that's the way I'm going to try to hedge it this year. For old and new crop, I'm working on strategies with guys. And everyone's pretty busy, but we're just starting to talk about it right now as they're harvesting it. And we're going to be working on trying to fix it the best that a guy can fix it. We talked about the low priced calls. Very hard to sell premium when you can get nothing. It's not a good situation in corn, but I think a lot of guys are under the impression it's too cheap and it should come up. It's not cheap relative to wheat, and it doesn't need to come up relative to wheat. Is that spread important? It is important. There's a reason why it's a historically followed spread. There's a reason why it's a feed spread. So it's a huge anchor on corn. And there's just too much cheap feed is what it amounts to. So corn doesn't need to wander away from that. Is there opportunity there? Absolutely. Call me and we'll go over what I like there and what I would consider doing. And we'll talk about the exact plan, corn versus wheat and which wheat to use. But, it's that time of year. You need to start planning. Some of these decisions you make this time of year can have a big impact. I would say spring into summer is the most important time period for marketing. But this tends to be very important too. And the big question is, should I re-own bushels right now that I have to sell because I don't have time for storage? Others are basis questions, and you'll get that kind of stuff. So each farm is handled individually. Handled and then we just kind of talk through it and see what's the best. There isn't a lot of great ideas. It's not like this is a good market and we have all the answers and you come to us and we'll fix it for you. I mean, the damage is already done. It's just it's a low price year. Inputs are really high, but I just wouldn't give up. I keep saying it. Try to be positive and push through it and see if there is anything that you can do to help. And I'll leave it at that. I mean, I would try to be the more positive guy and try to help my situation and just don't be the guy that complains every single day, which I'm sure if you go on Twitter, you're going to notice some of them are snarky about it, but it doesn't help anybody. You know what I mean? They're not going to sway anybody's opinion and change things. Get on the ground and change it. If you know representatives, and in rural areas, a lot of people do know their representative. Go that route and see if you can start changing it that way. And like Ryan was talking about earlier, what can you do? This is a pretty bad situation. I don't see the expansion in South America slowing down anytime soon. But I wouldn't just give up yet. We've seen a lot of different commodity cycles. This one appears to be nasty. But things change and they change quickly in commodities. I wouldn't just roll over and say there's nothing you can do.
I was going to say just put all your land in CRP.
Odds are the government's going to get involved and there will be some good ideas out there. And that's why I'm saying talk to your representative. Get your great ideas to them.
I just want to clarify that was a joke.
Yes. Yeah. It's the CRP and cattle, and there's mixes of stuff that seem like it could work. Hopefully they do get things figured out. I'm not, that's not my specialty. There's guys that I have clients that are very involved in that, and they're all the way traveling to the state capitals and talking about it. So it's a very important part. I won't say that. I mean, it is really important, but that's where I would channel your energy. And don't be angry. They get enough angry. Try to be constructive and help and start coming up with ideas, and that's how things change. But that's my advice to you. It's help what you can help and try to better your situation. And believe it or not, there's going to be guys that figure better things out in marketing. So hopefully you can start trying to do that and making changes. And I think that'll help you. I think it'll benefit you already into springtime. But what do we do with these markets? What do you do when it goes back and forth just a little bit? Corn stuck at 420, not the best fundamentals. What are you hearing? I'm hearing that it's pretty good in corn. Beans are all over the place. Kind of sounds like every year. You know what I mean? Anything standing out to you when you hear these yield reports coming in?
No, it's I would say it's the same old that we've talked about for a few weeks.
Yeah, North Dakota's the most notable one, with beans being disappointed. It sounds pretty statewide. That's the only really Southern Illinois wasn't great, average at best, and then also North Dakota. Quickly though, basis looking okay for beans. I mean, it's a little bit worse in the West here than last year at this time, but the East is better, and that's to be noted. We talk a lot about spreads and basis. Spreads aren't moving yet. Basis is a little bit, so keep your eye on that. Maybe there's not as many beans left over from last year. Maybe there's not as many this year. Maybe demand's better stated better than they have stated. But that's the one bright spot is the basis is a little bit better for beans than one would expect in the East.
Yeah, I agree. Let's switch gears to crude oil.
Yeah.
We briefly talked about that offline. Tell me your crude oil thoughts. We're at $57 a barrel.
Yeah.
Kind of been around there for a while.
Is that a warning sign? I meant a lot of people say crude's a leading indicator. OPEC is, opening the spigots a little bit. OPEC plus, I should say. And of course, they're looking over their shoulder. They don't trust each other. You sign. I'm gonna pump a lot more, and then you go home and you don't pump anymore. It's all that much more profit for you, or you don't cut. It's all that much more profit for you. But that's always been that way with OPEC. They're opening the spigots. Is it part of the economy? Well, you look at transportation. I would say definitely in freight. Definitely a part of it as well. Things are slowing down. What should you do? Should you hedge it? Should you not hedge it? It's at carry. We haven't seen carry this time, meaning like January is cheaper than some of the other months I was just looking, and you haven't seen that this time of year. Pretty rare. That's a bearish sign, meaning fundamentally they're paying you to store it and not bring it to market, just like they would with grains. Works the same way in oil. The biggest carry I saw is when oil went to zero. The next contract, May went to zero.
Negative.
Oh, negative 50. Yeah. And I think it was still positive 15 for June. And 65 cent, $65 carry. Yeah, that was a big carry. I don't think we're ever going to beat that record again. But it's a few cents, 30 cents. But it shows that there's definite fundamental weakness in oil. This isn't just a fun sell-off of any sort. This is a real deal. Normally when it gets to these levels, I really like to sell puts on oil. I'm not as fired up about doing that on this. First of all, the implied volatility is fairly low. And secondly, you got to want to own, if you're going to sell put, you're going to want to own that crude oil at that level. So if you sell a put and it goes in the money, you get the premium. But if it goes in the money, you are long in an oil contract. But usually when it gets down here, I like to do it because it works really good. It usually bounces out of here, but that's not the market that we got. That's not the look at all that we have right now. Just slowly deteriorating, where gold and silver had been soaring. It's very unusual for gold and silver to be moving the way they are and crude oil to be going down. That is not something that you would expect to see.
I want to just expand on how that works. So let's say you sell a $45 put.
Yeah.
Right. And oil goes to 37, which is possible.
Yep.
You are now long oil at $45 with its
minus the premium that you got. Let's say you got $2 premium, then you'd be long at 43.
Yes.
Yeah. So it comes with risk. This is not something that a guy that needs to know what he's doing when he sells that. Why would a producer do that? Well, if you're gonna buy fuel at those prices anyway, you can sell a put and then you can be long at that price that you would have been long at anyway. Is it very common in farming? No, not really, but the guys definitely dabble in the energies. Diesel is what they use on the farm. It's a big contract. They do have micros, they have minis, but there's no liquidity there. One day there will be, hopefully, they get a contract that's smaller than 40,000 gallons to work. But till then, guys, like I say, you wouldn't be crude oil, you'd be selling the put. You'd be selling the put in diesel. And then that would work for a legitimate hedge for your farm. But I don't like the looks of this. It's got a bad feeling. I didn't like last week when the regional banks needed a lifeline. It feels like there's fundamentally something going on here that's not so good with the economy, world economies. Interest rates continue to drop. So there's some ominous signs there, but you have gold and silver going nuts. Today was a nasty day down. And before you go out running and buying a bunch of futures, remember there's no limits in metals. So it can fall or go up as much as it wants to in a day. Be very careful with those markets. Most guys own physical stuff. Futures definitely are used, but silver had, down 7% today? A huge drop, 47. I think it was just 53 the other day.
I'm just looking here. Yeah, 7% down, 5.5% down in gold.
Gold.
Yeah.
And why is that going up? Well, I mean, you talk to a gold and silver bug, they'll tell you why. They'll give you a 2-hour story why, or probably a 2-day story. But it is kind of mysterious the way that it is happening. It almost like they don't trust what's going on in the system, and they're going to a hedge, is what it looked like to me.
I do want to point out when the market dumps, gold and silver dump too, though.
In the past, that's what's happened.
Yeah.
In 2008, when it looked like the financial system was going to melt down, gold and silver went nuts for 2 days. And then it completely fell apart and went straight down. And when the wheels do come off, or at least looks like it comes off, gold and silver have not fared very well. Now, the gold and silver bugs will tell you that one day it's going to be when they lose the confidence or the debt gets too high, that they will go 2 different ways. That's what it looks like so far. And one day
it has been moving that way.
Yeah, it has been moving that way. And one day that might be true. So never say never on that side of things too. If there's total loss in the U.S. dollar or the ability to repay the debt, that might be what happens. I'm not saying that's happening now, but very unusual moves. So to see it that smooth for that long, today is kind of a rough day. Tells me that the guys that know a lot of things, prefer gold over anything else. This doesn't appear to be speculative money. It looks like they're moving real money asset stuff into gold and silver. But we also have seen these cycles. You can never be sure. They're not going to tell you that. But it looks like institutional buying more than been speculation. It's not been spiky at all. It's been very smooth on the way up.
Well, then maybe interest rates will go to 0.
Yeah, and I don't know if we can go to 0 again. That's going to be tough.
I'm just joking.
They might need to, the way the debt's piling up. But that kind of stuff that we're talking about can affect cattle and grains virtually overnight. So you want to keep track of that stuff on a weekly basis at the very minimum. So guys will argue if gold and silver is going up, corn's way underpriced. I just don't be those guys. Don't be in that camp. When you see oil and gold and silver go up, then I think you can make that argument, as we have seen that in the past. In 2008, oil went to $150 a barrel. Corn went to $8 for absolutely no reason. And then it went to $2.97 by harvest time. So it was very short-lived, but it did happen in the past. So watch oil. And with oil being where it is, I have a hard time believing corn's just going to be a part of the gold run here. Although I'll say I think the funds have covered the shorts and gotten long grains to some degree because of that. But don't expect an $8 run if oil's at $57.
Right, exactly. Well, John, anything else to add today? Then we covered a lot of ground.
We did cover a lot of ground, and I think it's important. I really think that you need, if your marketing cycle hasn't been working for you, you want to break that cycle and try something new. And maybe you have. There's a lot of bad information out there for hire. It's not even free. It's for hire. Find guys that are giving you better information. I err on the side of trying to get a lot of ideas in front of guys, not a confusing amount, but at least laying out their options for them to hopefully help them make better decisions. And that's what we basically do every day.
Love it. Why don't you leave your number, John?
218-731-1578.
Happy birthday, John.
Hey, thanks. If you genuinely want to, voice your opinion, call your representatives, or, start looking for that change,
Yep.
Getting online does very little.